Hi, I'm Robert, and today I'm with Camille and Leo, and we are going to talk about the kilogram, AI, and VR therapy.
Yeah. So first, I think it would be very interesting to speak about the kilogram. Everyone know what a kilogram is? Well, in fact, it is defined by a piece of metal which is carefully kept in the pavilion of Breteuil near Paris. And, well, it is the defining mass against which all other kilograms are measured. I mean, like this tiny metal thing is the one thing that defines all our mass system. But like last week, a general conference was held and this decided to get rid of this system with a single metal piece and use a fundamental constant based on the measure of the gravitational force to define what a kilogram is. What do you think of that?
Well, won't the values change, or how?
Well, it might change a tiny bit because the metal piece was shrinking over time, so it's not exact, but it would be almost the same thing. Like the precision is nothing for the common humans.
Okay.
All right. So now, what are they gonna do with the actual piece of metal? Like they've been keeping it in that place for more than a century. So are they gonna just chuck it in a bin?
No, that would be so sad. Imagine, like they've been keeping it for like 100 years. I think they said that they will continue to measure it, so they will see how it evolves and maybe how it differs of the new system and of the new definition.
Yeah, that could be really
Yeah.
interesting.
It's a piece of museum. It's something.
Yeah.
I actually didn't really understand how it was actually measured, that kilogram. So how do everyday people will know what a kilogram is? How are we gonna explain it? That doesn't really mean something concrete anymore.
Yeah, it's true that it's a bit complicated because, in fact, like to explain you quickly, it's the measurement of a current that passes through the kilogram that permits to measure like the gravitational force that is acting on the mass, and depending on that current, we can know the mass of the object. So it's a bit complicated, and I agree that almost no one can really understand it. But like for daily life, for daily things, it will change nothing. To be true, the basic of length of time, of temperature, they're all defined by this kind of system. They're all defined by fundamental constants and by physical processes. But like for us, it changes nothing. It's just a matter of precision. And I think that's very important because meter and kilograms and things like that are really important for physicians, and they need really precise measurements, and they need a huge amount of precision. So the fact that now it will be more sure what a kilogram is will maybe enable us to do many things with technology and science. But like for us, for common people, it will change nothing, and we don't have to understand what it is. Like we get what like a kilogram looks like, what a meter looks like, what a second is already.
Yeah, and it will be, and this precision is important for today's new medication that will be of nanometrical dimensions. So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's important.
Do you think only the kilogram is going to change, or are there other units that actually need to change?
In fact, the kilogram was the last unit that needed to change.
Well, so we're going to talk about our second piece of news. We've heard about how Kenyans were becoming experts in artificial intelligence. I'm going to talk a bit about that. We've interviewed one of the managers of a company that employs the citizens of one of the biggest slums in the world, and that's called Kibera. And how they become experts to work with one of the most complicated softwares in the Silicon Valley. That's one software that's used for self-driving cars and is really futuristic. What they actually do is they get people to implement images in a big database and clicking on it to define everything they see. So the machine will then see through that. They are contouring every object in the picture, like the trees, the cars, the people crossing the road. So then the car is actually going to be able to recognize it and take decisions due to it. Yeah, that's quite new thing, and that's really interesting because I didn't know artificial intelligence was actually that manual. So yeah, that's quite interesting.
But like you said that there were people living in slum, and are they really qualified to do that kind of work?
Yeah, because actually the work in itself is quite easy. It's quite repeat like it's quite it's a bit the same all the time, but all you do is you just click on the picture, you zoom in to get every pixel of the image right, and at the end of the day you just have to save images and click on them. And of course people don't always know how to use a computer there because even though they all use smartphones, some of them had never seen a computer in their life, and for that the company is paying them a course to be able to master all the equipment.
Okay.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that they can use a smartphone, but they they can't use a mouse and a computer. That was
That's quite funny for us.
yeah. And but there was a social aspect to this article, and well, does this work really benefits to people in Kenya, or how does it reflect on the society there?
Yes, we could think of that because often we see like the companies that export their work overseas, they often exploit their employees, but here it's not actually the purpose. Of course, they work long days of 8 hours, but that's not really any different than in Europe or the United States, and they are paid the triple of the wage they would get with another job or illegal ones, and that keeps them away from illegal things or from the slum, because they all live like they all work in a modern building, and as they give them good salaries, that like affects the families the way they can afford more things and maybe like pay an education for the children. So this is really a good opportunity for them.
Yeah.
And that actually affects around 50,000 people in Kenya. So that's not
that's
really?
quite.
But-
So it's like it's a real benefit for the firm, but also for the people living there.
yeah. Of
Okay.
course, you'll think the firm benefits from it because they can find easily people that want to work for it, as it's quite manual. That takes a lot of people, and maybe that's a job that they wouldn't do. People wouldn't want to do in the United States because it's quite repeating. And they will pay them a lot less than they will have to in the United States. But for them, it's still a lot.
Okay, that's very interesting. I think it's Yeah, it's great that they are not exploiting them. I mean, they are using the fact that they can pay them less than in America, but they are still like considering them as human beings. Okay.
And it has a great impact on women in Kenya, no?
Yes. Actually, the head of the company is a woman, and she says that um, the the woman cause there is very important to her. A lot of women there don't have a job, and they are mainly just in charge of the family, and just having that firm employs more than 50% women, as it's a job they can easily do too, and that gives them an opportunity, especially for single mothers or big families, to support their children. And the head of the company really made things easier to employ women, as there's a lactation room, so they can bring their infant at work if they have to. There's a 90 days pregnancy leave, and the work shifts are adapted, so you could easily be a mother while working there.
Okay, so now we come to the third article on today's Science News Roundup. So the article is about VR therapy that is used to cure people from anxiety disorders. In fact, well, the patient has a virtual reality headset and sees this virtual environment, and a clinical psychologist is with him and gives him encouragement and modules the friendliness of the environment, because it's usually for people who are afraid of crowds and going into a coffee shop, boarding a bus. It's in fact at least as effective as traditional therapies, studies show. So it's a great thing.
But I mean, like, with virtual reality, like, you know when you see it that it's not real, like people are not sure, like it's not a film, it's drawn.
Yeah, that's true. But in fact, the emotional brain center works faster than the logic center.
Oh, really?
So the people show the symptoms of the stress. So an increased heartbeat, more conductivity on the skin, and so on.
Okay.
So they show the real symptoms due to virtual reality, and even if they know it's false and it's not a true environment, so it works because in fact the key ingredient to curing these kind of disorders or sicknesses is the exposure to these fears. So they confront them in a virtual environment, but the fact is that they show the symptoms, so they learn to confront these fears, and the great thing is that you can, for example, if you're afraid of planes, you can take off and land many times during one session, something you can't do in real life. So it's much cheaper. It has many benefits.
Yeah, and like it gives the possibility to exactly know what is going to happen, like in the shops or
that's true.
in the places.
Yeah, it helps.
So like it helps to avoid accidents that could like emotionally affect.
Yes,
the
of course.
patients.
The psychologist can module the things. He can module the friendliness of the environment. There are even studies where where if the patient is feels too bad, he can he's transported to another place, to a calm beach, where he can see his heart pumping in his hand. It's a bit awkward, but yeah.
Okay.
Actually,
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah, I see
And,
how it
these kind
could
of
be
things.
more efficient than actual therapy, like living the real thing. Because if you can adapt it, and
Yeah.
yeah, of course you can live many times a situation that you couldn't in real life, like boarding a plane. All right. So like, does it work with any fear, any phobia? You know, people are afraid,
Yeah.
often afraid with
Yes.
spiders.
Yeah, in fact, they started with in 1990 they started this VR therapy. And they started on more, I would say, simple anxiety disorders such as the fear of heights, or the fear of spiders. And so yeah, it's working.
Okay.
And the great thing is that they are now working on automated VR therapies where you don't have this clinical psychologist that is accompanying you, and it's just an avatar in your virtual reality that gives you advice, encouragement, and
Maybe that could help with people who are afraid of doctors or
yeah,
something like that.
of course, yeah. That's actually the main issue to help people who can't go visit a therapist because they are afraid of him or because they are far from a therapist. They live in the countryside or skeptical, and so this kind of automated therapy works on for simple phobias such as fear of spiders or heights, but not to. There aren't any results yet, but scientists think it won't work that good on complex disorders because
people are really fragile, like a machine, like an automatic. So
Yeah,
you
and-
can't really understand them, or the virtual
the
doctor.
virtual doctor can't understand that well the emotions, the situation in which the
Okay, it's like it's quite impressive how like a doctor is created, like how we are replacing human beings.
yeah, it's a bit it's even a bit scary. I think
it's a bit frightening.
some in this actually for the study I know I was going to say something wrong. No, it's because they are for example in to cure schizophrenia. They are studying a new method where an avatar embodies the voices, the hallucinations of the patients, and it's actually some people dropped from the study because they were afraid of this their avatar because it was they found it too scary.
It could be very
it
disturbing.
could be a bit it could be
Okay.
disturbing to have this.
There are some
person
limits,
speak-
like we don't have to push too much.
Yeah.
But it has it's beneficial in many points. So So I think we did the roundup. So today we saw the redefinition of how the redefinition of the kilogram can ensure more security, how AI impacts African countries, and how virtual reality can change people's lives for the better. We hope so. So for more information or details, visit our website. Don't forget to stay tuned. Subscribe to our Facebook page, and see you next week for a new science news roundup.
Ok. C'est pas mal.